How to win the talent war for the best attorneys and support staff in your market. Did you know that attorneys who can predictably recruit A players for their firms will grow 30% faster and profit 35% more? In this video, you are going to learn how to stop depending on job ads and to start hand-picking the best quality legal staff in your market. You're going to learn how to create ownership pads for the top performers on your law firm's team. You're going to learn how to master employer branding so you can become the place to work in your local market, not just a place to work. And last but not least, you're going to learn employer review optimization along with how to promote your culture the right way to attract the right candidates. So strap in, pay attention, and take notes because this training is going to be revolutionary for your firm. One of the top 3 problems that law firm owners have when it comes to scaling, recruiting is one of the top 3 recurring problems that law firm owners have when it comes to growing. One statistic that I read is that law firms that can recruit A players, if you can predictably recruit A players immediately by solving that problem, I want you to write this down for yourself to understand the implications. Law firms that can predictably recruit A players are going to grow 30% faster and profit on average 35% more. So if you can figure out this one problem, solve no other problem in your law firm, right? Just solve the problem of attracting A players. On average, statistics show that your firm's going to grow about 30% faster just by solving that one problem. You're going to profit about 35% more because people don't cost you money. The right people should what you money? Should they cost you money or should they what? Make you money, right? Every person on your team should be a profit center. If they're not, they're a loss center. And I don't think you're in the business of burning money, right? So therefore, we all have to become profit multipliers with our hiring strategy. We have to become really good at printing money when it comes to hiring A players who produce more income for the business threefold than they do expenses. We always want to be at a 3-to-1 or higher return on investment on labor, right? Every dollar we spend on labor, we want to be getting $3 back. At minimum, best firms are going to see 5-to-1 return on investment, right? So I also read a statistic that 71% of small to mid-sized law firms say that attracting talent is one of their top 3 growth barriers, yet only 12% of small to mid-sized law firms have a proactive recruiting playbook. Does anyone see the mismatch here? 71% of firms say that hiring is one of their top 3 problems. Give me a 1 in the chat right now if you think hiring is one of if you're in that 71%, hiring is one of your top 3 problems, finding top-notch talent, right? So we can see the law of large numbers taking place right in front of our eyes, right? So the statistics don't lie. This is a top 3 problem for law firm growth. However, only 12% of firms have actually figured this out. And that's why a very small percent of firms actually grow and actually reach their growth goals, okay? All right, what is the hiring process? Before we go into how to solve your hiring process, let's talk about what is the hiring process first. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to break it down to its constituent parts so that it is dummy-proof simple for everyone on this call to understand. Step 1 of the hiring process actually starts way before hiring, right? We call this the future organizational chart. So in order to have complete confidence in who you must hire next, the first step is to have a future organizational chart clarified for your law firm. So this is a tool I pulled out of our coaching portal for our clients. We have this tool vault in our coaching portal. And one of the tools in there that's most popular is our organizational chart tool, which helps you clarify your firm's org chart from a future basis and a current basis perspective. So all organizational charts are first going to have at the top of it a visionary, right? So there's always a visionary / CEO at the top of a properly structured organizational chart. How many of you are the visionary or CEO of your law firm? Put a me in the chat. You are the head honcho. You're the person that comes up with the major goals of the firm, right? That is the visionary category, right? So that's the top of the organizational chart, right? Now, typically visionary doesn't change, but all the other roles in your org chart will change. So next we have integrator, right? So beneath the visionary, there's a role called an integrator. Integrator is typically going to be your COO, director of operations, really the firm administrator, the person who is the number two, the person that you have the vision, you give them the vision, and they implement the vision. Now, unfortunately, most firms don't have a integrator. Therefore, all of the vision and the operation falls on whose shoulders? Everyone want to point at someone? You. Everything falls on your shoulders. So you're not only the visionary, the goal setter, but you're also the implementer. Impossible to have as high an impact on your vision if you're also responsible for implementing it. That's why finding an integrator for your firm is mission critical for scale. Okay. Then we have your heads of departments. There's 3 mega departments. We have your revenue department, which includes intake and marketing, right? So anything that generates new cases and or revenue, that's going to be your head of revenue, right? Some people call this intake director, marketing director, sales director, et cetera. That's your head of revenue generation. Then you have your head of case operations. This is usually a managing attorney, or this is somebody who is in charge of clients getting the best possible results they can with your law firm at scale. The third category is your finance and HR bucket, right? So this is kind of more of a catch-all bucket, and that is the third mega bucket of department leader. Now, when you are a small firm, who is all of these 5 roles I just laid out? Anyone want to point the finger one more time at someone? You are. You are the visionary. You're the integrator. You're the head of marketing. You're the head of intake. You're the head of everything, right? Finance, HR, it all rests upon you. So I always say the best way to create a future org chart is to decide which parts of your identity you're going to divorce permanently going forward. How many of you are ready for a divorce with parts of your identity today? There's going to be some tears, okay? You're going to have to give up parts of the old you, but you're going to have liberation and freedom when it comes to those parts in the future. Thank you, Ben. No tears today. We're ready to give up those parts of our identity. Okay, so the future org chart is step 1. Until you have a future org chart, you are not going to know what your mission critical roles are to hire next. So you got to draw this out. You got to draw out what's your current org chart, what's your current roles and responsibilities map of all the roles in your firm, and then what is the next chapter for your firm? What are the next 3 to 5 key roles you must hire, right? And then once you bridge the gap between where you are now and what those additional 3 to 5 roles are, you have now created what's called a future organizational chart. Okay, this is an org chart you want to step into, right? Step 2 of this process is what we call the blueprint. A lot of people skip this step. This is another tool that we give our coaching clients, the employee blueprint in our online portal. So the employee blueprint is where you codify exactly what you want in one of those 3 to 5 roles. So the first step before you ever put up a job ad, before you ever start a recruiting initiative, is to create a blueprint for the role that you want to hire. The blueprint includes what's the position, who do they report to, who are their direct reports, what is the purpose of the role, what personality indexes, results are you looking for from them, what kind of intangible characteristics do you want from this person, what are the 3 non-negotiables that you want from this person. They're typically experience-based non-negotiables, right? And then what are the top key responsibilities of this role, right? So what are going to be the things that they're held accountable to, right? And then most importantly, who wants to type this in the chat so I know you're all paying attention? What's this bottom category say down here? What's the most important part of this whole thing? Let me see in the chat. North Star metric. This is the number 1 number, as I call it. The one number that role is responsible for, right? So if it's an attorney, it's probably going to be, number of hours billed. It's going to be a certain amount of case revenue managed, right? Or generated. It's got to be one number, one measurement of success, so that financially, as the fiduciary of your firm, for sure this role is a return on investment, not a drain of cash, right? So once we fill out the employee blueprint, then we go on to the part which most people skip and go immediately to, which is the JD, otherwise known as the job description. The job description is a very simple process once you've created a job blueprint. once you know exactly what you're looking for, right, it becomes a cut and paste process of creating your job description. Because until you get clear on who it is you're hiring, job descriptions are typically speaking to the wrong people, right? So job description comes third. So step one is we want to create our org chart. Step two, we want to create a blueprint for the one role that we're going to hire of exactly what we're looking for in that role. Step three is we then create the job description, right? And the job description then gets promoted. Now, there's two ways to promote a job description. What do you think most people do? What's the most common way that attorneys promote job descriptions? Let me know in the chat. Online, right? They do ZipRecruiter, they do LinkedIn, they do Indeed, right? So the biggest mistake that people make once you create a job description is you promote it to unemployed people. How many of you want to hire unemployed people? Well, that's 90% of the people you interview. Unfortunately, those are the people who tend to infest the job boards, right? The online sites that you promote job descriptions on. How many of the greatest athletes in the world by percentage in the course of any given year in their prime were unemployed? Less than 1% and 1% and 1% and 1% and 1% and 1%, right? Because the best people are always working, and they're always working for good firms, right? So one of the biggest shifts, and something we're going to talk about today, is the importance of poaching and why poaching is so much more important than using job ads or recruiters. Now, I'm okay with using outbound recruiters, but inbound recruiters who basically just put up job ads and then charge you an arm and a leg to do something you could have done in-house, that ain't right, right? And it's a ripoff. Many of these recruiting services are ripoffs because they are not providing true value added, okay? So let's see. Here's what I want to talk about next. What happens after that? Well, you have a string of interviews, okay? So once you get someone's attention, whether that is through poaching or whether that is through job ads, right? Then you go through a string of interviews. Your interview process is also mission critical. What is your first round interview process? What is your second round interview process, right? So first round interview is about selling the vision and qualification, right? A lot of people get this wrong. They go into a full, long, lengthy interview right off the bat, right? You should be doing a little bit of qualification off the bat for sure to make sure that this person is truly qualified. Experience-based vetting is more important at this phase because you're never going to be able to vet someone fully for core values in a first round interview. That takes multiple calls to really vet their core values and intangibles. So during the first round interview, you're really looking to do experience vetting, and in combination, you're looking to do vision setting. Once the person has passed your experience criteria, the next step is to sell the vision of where the firm's going, right? So once qualification criteria has been met, then we go, great, let me share a little bit about what makes SMB Team unique or what makes your company unique. We are the only insert niche firm that does it X, Y, and Z way in the entire market. And that's what contributed to X, Y, and Z success for us over the last 5-10 years. And here's where we're going in the next 10 years. Now, as a follow-up from this call, we're going to be sending you what's called our Vivid Vision, right? Our Vivid Vision is a 5-page PDF document that describes exactly where our business is going to be in the next 5 years. And once you read through that, you're going to be making us a 60 to 90-second video explaining A, what excites you about the vision, and B, how you intend to contribute to this vision, right? So then that puts the onus on them after the first round screening interview, right? From the screening interview, if they reply back with a 60 to 90-second response to our vision, then we permit them to go into a second round interview so long as they passed our experience criteria. Then we go into core value vetting. Then we go into additional qualification experience vetting, right? So biggest thing that people miss is when you're trying to recruit A players only work for law firms that are going places. If your law firm is not going places, or you haven't communicated to people that your law firm is going places, good luck getting someone to quit their job at a bigger law firm than yours to come to a firm that has not articulated to them that they're going places, right? Does everyone understand what I'm saying right now? The number one reason you can't attract top-notch talent is because the market has not concluded that your law firm is the place to be in your market. That is the number one reason A players are not joining your firm. It's not your job ads. It's not your employee blueprint. It's not any of the things I just broke down. The number one thing is that whatever lack of branding you've done in your local market, lack of decking out your Glassdoor profile, lack of decking out your 5-star reviews online, lack of putting out content on YouTube and social media, you have not created a presence of preeminence, right? So when people go to interview with your law firm, they just think you're just another law firm. So the A players say it's money, they say it's this, they say it's that. What they'll never say is, I just don't think you're that good of a leader. Hence, your firm isn't really that appealing to me, right? But that is going on subconsciously in their mind, right? They're looking at whether or not this is a firm I'm excited to be a part of, right? Because A players want to see growth, right? If you want growth-minded people, your firm must be growth-minded. So you can't attract someone that's not in line with your firm's actuality, right? So once the interviews are done, we then do what's called an applicant debrief. So the applicant debrief writes out everything about their knowledge base, their work history, their general impressions, assessments of strengths, overall rating, final summary, personality test results, and things that we need to double down on. Then the second interview notes are stored here from whoever did the second round interview. And then we have CEO sniff test. This is now really a COO sniff test. I no longer am involved in the interview process, but for years in SMB's scaling journey, I would always do a quick sniff test for the mission critical roles that we hired. I'd go through everything in the sheets and everything that anyone wrote about any of the interviews. I'd actually watch most of the interview recordings on 2x speed because we record all of our interviews. And there's sometimes I would watch the interviews and I would just go, no, we're not hiring this person. There's other times I'd watch and I'd see things we didn't double down on, we didn't ask enough questions about. And then I would be kind of the BS detective when I do these final interviews. So that's the process. The process is not going to necessarily attract you great people, but it's going to make sure that when you get a great person in your funnel, that you don't scare them away. Okay, so let's go back into how to recruit A players. Now, all the tools that I just gave are tools that we give to our coaching clients that work with us, and they are accessible in our online portal at coach.smbteam.com. Okay, so let's go through the 7 recruiting power plays that you can roll out in your firm today to attract A player attorneys and support staff to your firm immediately. Number 1 is to master poaching, right? Now, the question you need to ask yourself is, would I rather waste time with unqualified candidates? Would I rather clog up my recruiting system with people who are not qualified to work for my firm and then mistakenly hire the wrong person that's an underperformer, which then costs me years of my life and years of money? Would I rather waste years, or would I rather waste a couple hours being surgical and picking out the right people to interview in the first place? Either way, it's going to cost you time. The question is, do you want to waste years of your life or a couple hours of your life? And the beautiful thing when you learn poaching is it's actually no time wasted at all. So poaching is very, very simple. It's something that people look at as like a no-no and people get scared about it. People don't talk about it. It's pretty dang simple. Step 1, you identify the top 3 to 5 firms in your market that you believe have top-notch candidates that are being underappreciated or are part of a culture that's gone toxic, or that you receive a ton of complaints about in your local market from clients. Typically, these are firms that are a little bigger than yours, that have a bad brand, that clearly have culture problems, but they've figured out some elements of growth. That's where you're going to find some of the best underappreciated, talented people, is a firm slightly bigger than yours, slightly bigger brand, culture problems, client service problems, owner doesn't really care about quality legal service. That's going to be one of the primary recruiting candidates for you, right? Is finding 3 to 5 firms in your market that meet that criteria in your eyes, right? Step 2 is spotting high performers, okay? So you can do what's called a LinkedIn Boolean search through LinkedIn Sales Navigator. which is a subscription on LinkedIn, and you can find anyone that's mentioned anything like specific case wins, publication mentions. You can basically look up what anyone has posted on LinkedIn in mass within a cohort of the X number of law firms in your market that you want to potentially poach from. You can also just manually look through their employee numbers. You can just look through the actual, these firms are not going to be that big, right? You can look through anyone with the job title of attorney at any of these 3 to 5 law firms that you pick. Anybody with the job title paralegal, anyone with the job title X, whatever it is you're looking for, intake director, intake specialist, blah, 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 right? It's all going to be publicly available on LinkedIn. Pretty dang simple. Anybody on this call can do that, right? Step 3 is to send a personalized video invite to the person that you want to communicate with. So make a personalized video from you, the owner of the firm, to show how serious this is, right? That you are personally reaching out to the person to have a one-on-one call with them to talk about their experience. You want to learn from them. You want to learn what made them successful. You also want to learn a little bit more about how satisfied they are at their current firm, right? You want to build that relationship with them, right? Now, one way I've seen better is framing it as you want to connect and learn from them and make them feel special for the experience that they've gained at this firm. And you want to make them, it's kind of like Inception. You want them to have the idea that they're going to work for you, right? If you're doing personalized outreach, right? Book a call with them and you do a bunch of listening. You do a bunch of question asking, right? You ask them about what they, what's made them succeed for the last 3 to 5 years, how satisfied they are. Then you mention that the fact that your firm has a job opening towards the end of the call, and it could be a great opportunity because it seems like a lot of the things they told you are things that your firm does completely differently with a completely different positive, uplifting culture. And you may be a lot happier working with us versus where you are right now. Would you be opposed to having a call to talk through what that would look like? Boom. It's that simple, right? All you have to do is get their attention, get them talking, and then pivot the conversation. Now, if you don't have time to do this, I saw some of you said, can you hire a headhunter for poaching? Absolutely. We've had success with this. It's just more expensive. Now, if you're going to hire a headhunter for poaching, for outbound, you must vet with proof that they do outbound headhunting. Okay, so if you go down the roller coaster of interviewing 5 or so recruiting companies, you want to make sure that they do outbound recruiting. You also want to make sure that you can control the job description. What works really well for these outbound recruiters is if you've already filled out like the template that we give to our clients, the employee blueprint. If you've already filled out an employee blueprint for the role, then you can send it to the recruiter and then have them create the job ad based on the employee blueprint. Remember, the employee blueprint describes exactly what it is you're looking for in the role, right? This is what it looks like again, right? So it shows exactly what you're looking for in the role. The non-negotiables of experience, the key responsibilities of the role, everything about the personality type you're looking for, right? This is going to give a lot of context to the recruiter, right? Fill that out, give it to them. A lot of these recruiters actually have templates for this that they use internally that they'll have you fill out. And then just make sure that they do outbound recruiting. Have them show proof of how they do outbound recruiting before you sign that engagement letter with them to have them start recruiting for you. So this is one of the biggest shifts. If there's one takeaway from everything I just went through, it's transitioning from a job ad approach to a poaching approach, because the best people are employed, right? You don't want to become the best possible firm in your market at interviewing unemployed people. You don't want to get good at interviewing unemployed people. You want to get excellent at interviewing the top-notch people in your market and having a much lower volume of interviews, but a much higher quality interview, right? That makes sense, everyone? Can I get some yeses in the chat that everyone understands what I'm saying? Like, I don't want you to ever be mad if you only get 5 people to apply for a job. I want you to be happy if all 5 of those people are wildly overqualified for the role, right? Quality over quantity. All right. Next one I want to talk about is employer branding. Okay. This is mission critical. Employer branding is probably one of the most important things. If you don't figure this out, you are always going to get beat by the firm that has the better brand. So, how to become the choice in your market. Unfortunately, the firms that you hate in your market that do crappy work, that rip off clients, blah, 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 they've just done a little bit of a better job. They've just done a little bit of a better job branding. And it's really a travesty because if your firm is providing better legal work than their firm, kind of misleading to have the worst firms in your market have the best marketing, and to have a firm like you that actually does great legal work miss out on the best candidates consistently. So how to become the choice in your market? Number one, you've got to have content out there that shows that you're the best choice in your market. That's it. How does someone conclude from an outsider looking in perspective that your firm is the best choice in your market? If you have no content online, how does one conclude that? So you have to have content online that solidifies the fact that you are the choice in your market. Okay. So let's look at one way. One way is you have a day in the life video content of some of your top attorneys, or of you, of what it's actually like a day in the life working at the firm. This could be a 60-second video, day in the life. You can hold micro webinars. Imagine this, like, let's say you get all the attorneys in your local market that you want to recruit. Let's say that you can get 10 of them to recruit to attend a 15-minute lunch and learn with you on X, Y, and Z on how to improve your legal craft in whatever practice area you're looking to recruit within. Let's say you get 5 of those attorneys on a 15-minute lunch and learn with you on Zoom, right? That's crazy, right? That's another form of content. That's you putting out video content again. Local press partnerships. Let's say that you do some local press. You do some big charity giveaway. You do some sponsorship of a local Red Cross event or something like that. So you do some kind of local press. You promote that on your social media. People come in, they apply, they see. Remember this, LinkedIn is one of the most powerful platforms because it's also a social media platform. Please remember this. The reason most people say they get higher quality candidates on LinkedIn is only those who have content on LinkedIn. Because when people encounter your law firm, they're going to look at your law firm's profile on LinkedIn. So the more content you put out on LinkedIn, the more quality people you're going to recruit on LinkedIn. Right? So if you're not putting out content on LinkedIn on your profile, right, every single week, you get some A-player attorney to apply to some outbound message you sent them, or a job ad, which is still inevitably going to happen from time to time. You get someone to apply. They click through to your law firm's LinkedIn profile. They see that you just sponsored a local blah blah thing in your local market. They see, you with 5 very happy clients, a photo and a description of how you fought for each of them and how fulfilling it was. They see your last 5 posts and they think, wow, the owner of this firm's a really good person. There's someone I'd like to work for. Versus, imagine the alternative viewpoint. They visit your LinkedIn profile and there's no post for the last 3 years. So think about that. So that's another form of content, how to become the choice in your local market. Another way to become the choice in your local market is to just promote your law firm more. Remember this, the things that you do to attract clients, your prospective employees are also likely going to see. 5-star reviews are another form of content. How many times have you heard someone, if you have a bunch of 5-star reviews, say that one of the contributors to their decision to join your firm was that you made your clients really happy? I looked through your 5-star reviews and I realized this is the type of firm I want to work for. So all of these things tie together: the content on your LinkedIn profile, the content on your Glassdoor profile, the reviews on your Glassdoor profile, the reviews on your Google Business profile, Google Maps, the videos that you have online, the events that you've sponsored, the webinars that you've promoted and done, the day in the life videos, happy employee testimonial videos online, right? All of these things add up to ultimately creating an environment where you attract to, you reinforce, you speak to A players constantly. Nothing will have a bigger impact than you becoming the choice in your market. Now, poaching is great, right? Poaching will get you in front of the most qualified people, right? Going outbound will get you in front of the most qualified people. The question of whether or not they choose your firm as the one to work for, that comes down to employer branding. So you need to put just as much attention, if hiring is a big problem for your firm, just as much attention as you put towards client acquisition marketing, you need to put towards employee acquisition marketing. You have to look at your online presence from the perspective of a prospective employee that does not know a damn thing about your firm. And you ask yourself, do a quick brain transplant, go online, pretend that you're not you, and you pretend that you are applying to work for your firm. You go through your own job ads, you go through your own online presence, and you ask yourself, if I was a top-notch attorney, would I go, hell yes, this is the perfect firm for me. Look at this piece of evidence and reinforcing that. Look at this. Look at these reviews. Look at this. Look at what they sponsored last. Look at all the big moves they're making. Look how active the owner is on social media. Wow. Or are you expecting attorneys to work for your firm just because of your compensation package, right? You damn sure don't want that to be the only reason that they choose to work for your firm. All right. Part of this is employer review optimization. Okay, so this is a part of the becoming the place to work for in your local market. If you have bad Glassdoor reviews, you need to fix it. You need to go in and get some more great Glassdoor reviews. You need to recurringly ask your team to leave you reviews on Glassdoor constantly. So you need to respond to reviews. The same things that you do when reviews come in on your Google Maps profile, you have to do on your employer profiles. Okay, solicit reviews at milestones. Another great thing to do. When someone hits their 1-year milestone with your firm, tell them you'd appreciate a review from them, right? When they win a big case, tell them you'd appreciate a review from them. Same thing you do. They say magic moments, right? When you ask a client to give you a 5-star review during a magic moment, you win their case, a big positive thing happens, they compliment you, boom, that's the best time to ask for a review. Same thing with employees. If you go through a 1-week push, you can get an additional 10 reviews on your employer profile. Now, it depends on how many employees you have, right? But you've got to get that decked out over time. If you only have a team of 5, please, dear Lord, please get all 5 of them to leave you an employer review. Okay, so we've gone through the mastering of poaching, the entire recruiting process, employer branding, employer review optimization. I want to go into the importance as part of becoming the go-to choice in your market, the importance of how to promote your culture, right? How to promote your culture the right way. How many of you have hired someone who is talented but was not a culture fit for your firm? They caused drama, they were negative. Anyone other than Anna? EFL, looks like a lot more yeses coming in, right? That's a core value problem. That's an entitlement problem. That's an attitude problem. That means that something wasn't vetted up front, right? That's on you as CEO of your business. That's on you as COO. Some COOs I see on here, that's on you, right? So you have to do a really good job of showing a way of your core values living and breathing and being in action, right? So how do we show our core values being lived and breathed? This all, again, comes down to what you share in your interview process, what you share in your content. I like to scare people away with our culture. I love throwing this line in. I love doing this during our interview process. Hey, I'd like to be really transparent with you. A lot of people come here because they say they'd like to join a new family, but I want to be clear with you that S&B team is not a family. We are a team, right? So just like a high-performing sports team, it measures every person on the team for value, right? We are very similar because we want you to be surrounded by A players. We want you to be surrounded by people that you don't need to micromanage and worry about them dropping the ball. And as a result of that, when you see a sports team, not family, team, win a championship, you see them all hug and cry, and the camaraderie is the deepest camaraderie you could ever imagine because you trust every individual on that team, right? So we want a team, not a family. A family, you tolerate underperformance. A family, let's say you have some drunk uncle that shows up to every Christmas party. Well, he's family. So we'll just let Teddy, the drunk uncle, stay on board because we're all family, right? That's not what a high accountability organization runs like. And I want to be clear that you joining our team means you're joining a high accountability organization. How does that sound to you, right? So that's a little clause you can throw into your interview process. You will scare people away. Every single person that you churn through that quits your firm, it's going to cost you at least 1.5x their salary. So by you scaring someone away in the interview process, you have saved your firm's bottom line 1.5x their salary. Now that's cost in addition to the salary of theirs they paid. So if they were with you for 1 year and left, that costed you 2.5x their salary. So you're saving yourself a bunch of money by preventing employee churn. It costs 1.5x their salary. There's been studies done by McKinsey and other consulting firms that show that the cost of lost productivity, having to ramp someone else up, retrain someone, switch the person's role, comes out to an average of 1.5x their salary in additional business costs and lost productivity. So employee churn is a huge cost. You want to scare people away before they make you incur that cost. You don't want everyone to accept your job, right? You want people to really think whether or not this is the culture that they want to be a part of. So we promote our culture the right way by giving that right balance of, now some of you don't want a team, not family approach. Some of you want a family approach. That's fine. Just be transparent in your interview process. Just be transparent in what you share on social media so that when somebody looks into your firm, if the only thing you're highlighting is, oh, got off early today, or we got new bean bags and free stuff for the office, that's who you're going to attract. But if the thing you celebrate on social media is the amazing results you got for clients, you put out a brand of being results oriented. You attract more results oriented people. Let's talk about creating ownership paths. We call this earn in equity. You can call these tiered equity paths. You can call these profit interest paths. How do you create ownership paths for rising stars or experienced attorneys? How do you promote this in your interview process or in your job ads? Well, newsflash, most ownership paths are sales pitches. In case you were wondering, when you see like somebody say like, oh, I have an ownership path, right? If you look at most businesses, most people actually don't make the ownership path. Most people don't hit all of the milestones that must be hit in order to gain equity or profit interest in the law firm, to actually become a partner in the law firm. So a partner promise, the ability to become a partner in the firm or to gain equity in the firm or ownership in the firm, is partial sales pitch and partial reality for those who earn it. How do you position your ownership paths? How do you kind of, if you're recruiting for a high level attorney, like if you're looking to have a managing attorney come in, take control of all case operations in your firm so that you never need to look at any element of casework ever again. Well, this is how all the bigger firms are managed. Like John Morgan is not, like, he has many different managing attorneys by division, by region, right? But he's not in charge of case operations strategy for all of their thousands and thousands of active cases, right? He's the visionary. He's setting the big goals. He's setting the financial goals, the quarterly targets, right? That's about it though. He's not in charge of case operations, right? So you hire a managing attorney for that. If you hire a managing attorney, you want the best of the best, you're going to have to give them some path to equity. You're going to have to give them some path to gaining ownership or equity in the firm. First step in this is create a 5 to 6 year equity path, right? Make it based on total revenue milestones hit within the firm, right? So if they hit X in year 1, Y in year 2, blah, blah in year 3, each year you create a vesting schedule, right? Let's say that you give them 2% ownership of the firm, or anywhere from, you can go anywhere from 0.5%, depending on how big your firm is, to 2%, to 5%, to even 10% if you want this person to have a huge vested interest in the future of the firm. You can create an equity path for them, lay out how they could get to that 2 to 5% ownership stake in the firm over the course of 5 years by hitting milestones. You create a vesting schedule for them in terms of how that equity vests. You can make it non-voting shares, meaning it's just profit interests, meaning they just get a share of the profits of the firm every quarter, right? And then their job title potentially changes. They can become a partner in the firm, right? Stuff like that matters to people. It's status, it's esteem, right? To be able to call themselves a partner in a firm, right? And that they earn their way there. So you create a partnership path, and then you have to hedge your risk with the partnership path, right? You have to make it so that at any point in time, if they quit, they lose it, right? So if they quit at any point in time, they lose all their vested equity. If at any point in time you terminate them for cause, they lose all their vested equity, and then you define what for cause means for them. So you can make this relatively risk-free, right? For yourself, meaning if you fire them, they lose it. If they leave, they lose their equity, right? And during the process of employment, you're able to kind of, sell the concept of this partnership path, and then you're able to have risk management on the back end should it not work out with them. Now you're able to promote that in your job ad, in your interview process. Like, this is a partner path role. We want the vision of this role is not just for you to be a massive contributor to the future of the firm, but it's also to have you become a partner in the firm. Is that something you're committed to doing? So that just adds to the selling point of the job description, right? So ownership paths, ownership paths, ownership paths. Last thing I want to go through is flexible work models. You got to understand that the Stone Age is scaring away top-notch talent. Now, I'm not talking about entitlement here. Entitlement is when you have someone who's not that experienced, not that good of by the way, yes, you can only do this for attorneys unless you're in a state that has non-attorney law firm ownership, and that's very complicated, still requires, I believe, Supreme Court approval. So I'm only talking about these ownership paths for attorneys, unless you find a way to do it for non-attorneys, depending on your state. So yeah, the last thing I want to talk about, again, is flexible work models. Like, the Stone Age is really killing you. A lot of firms are going back to in-office at high rates, and you got to ask yourself, what is more important to you? Having them in office or having them produce results? Having them produce financial results for the firm. If having them in office is more important to you for whatever reason than having them produce financial results, then make that a requirement. If having them produce financial results is more important to you, then I would clarify that, and I would set up a flexible work policy. Our company, we now recruit from all states in the United States. We actually now recruit internationally. We have employees in South Africa, Australia. We have employees all over the world now, because we realized that the biggest constraint on talent for our business was geographic boundaries. So we started hiring people all over. And this was unlocking for us. And all it did was require a little bit of better tracking of what people do throughout the day through our operating system as a company. But it was unlocking. We have a complete optional in-office model. We have an office in the Philadelphia area. You are able to come in any day of the week you want, but no day per week is mandatory. We do culture and team training, quarterly trainings, where we fly members of our team all out to our Philadelphia headquarters by department. We do that about once a quarter, where we fly out a big batch of our team to our Philly office. We do a bunch of training, camaraderie with them, and then they go home after 3 days. And that's the extent of in-office. We have a group of maybe 30 people that live in driving distance to our Philly office that come in maybe 1 day a week. A couple of them come in a couple days a week, and only about 5 members of our entire team of our 150 employee team. 5 of them come into the office consistently every single day. And that's myself, my COO, Brandon, Jen, my executive assistant, and Bill Cassidy, our creative director. And then Kevin Webb, our VP of finance, comes in maybe 3 days a week. That's it. Everyone else comes in like once a week if you're local driving, and everyone else, it's really once a year based on those quarterly trainings that we rotate in the company. So get more flexible is my point. Get more flexible. Being more results focused and less, show up to the office at this time focus can be very unlocking for you. What you want is results, not micromanagement. That's it. That's all we got for today's Law Firm Growth Accelerator Talk Show episode. Again, let's finish off with what we started with. If you can attract A players to your law firm, you will grow 30% faster. You will profit 35% more. This is mission critical as a problem to solve in your law firm. Until this problem is solved, you're always going to have a constraint in the growth department. So make it a decision, a commitment for yourself to solve this problem and solve it permanently. Hallelujah. Okay, I'll see everyone in 2 weeks. Make sure you lock in for Andy Stickle, who's going to be running our talk show next week for a disruptive topic he'll be running. And thank you, everyone, for attending. And remember, if you didn't fill out the roadmap yet, fill it out after this ends. smbteam.com/roadmap. What's up, Jeremy? Hallelujah. Man, I hope you're still flexing in the mirror. All right, I'll see everyone in a few weeks. Stay great. Thank you so much for watching this video on how to win the talent war in the legal market. If you like this video, please smash the thumbs up button and please put a comment below on what your biggest takeaway was from this training that I held, along with what you want us to make future trainings on to help advance and grow your law firm. I'll see you in the next video.